尊敬的各位领导、各位来宾，我们的会议即将开始，请大家进入会场，选择您喜欢的座位坐定。
Ladies and gentlemen, our conference will begin shortly. Please enter the venue and take your seats. Thank you.
世界各地的朋友们，大家好！热烈欢迎大家来到2020世界慕课大会。最近1年来，病毒带来了全球性的线下连接的危机，也给全球的教育提出了新的挑战。而近年来，互联网的发展促进了越来越多的虚拟连接。如何以虚拟连接应对线下连接的不足，使教育创新升级，是我们当下最关心的问题之一。本次大会选择在这样一个时刻召开，意在聚集全球最领先的大学和最好的在线教育平台，分享好的经验，增强国际合作，共促美好未来。作为本次大会的分论坛之一，我们这个分论坛的主题是虚拟仿真、信息技术与教育创新。虚拟仿真技术的发展和应用正在悄然改变着我们的学习方式和学习内容。在接下来的论坛中，我们将有来自世界各地的多位著名教授为我们讲授并展示虚拟仿真技术是如何改变我们对学校、教室、课程和学习模式的认知的。Hello everyone. Welcome to this 2020 International Conference of MOOC. This year, we are all suffer from the COVID-19 and cannot teach and learn face-to-face. Hopefully, Internet provides us an opportunity to virtually connect it together. How to teach and learn under this new circumstance put a new challenge to us. This conference is just holding at this moment to bring together some top universities and the best online teaching platforms. We hope that we can share good experiences, enhance our collaboration, and team up to bring the world into a better one. We are one forum of the whole conference. Our title is Virtual Simulation, Information Technology and Educational Reform. During the next 2 hours, we will have 11 professors from different countries show and explain how the new technologies are changing not only the contents of our courses, but also the arrangement of our classrooms, bring a new way of teaching and learning. 首先，我们有请本次大会分论坛的主办方领导、虚拟仿真实验教学创新联盟理事长、清华大学王希勤常务副校长致开幕词。First of all, let's invite the director of this forum, Professor Xi-Qin Wang, to give an opening address. Professor Wang is the Executive Vice President of Tsinghua University. He is also the President of Virtual Simulation Experiment Education Innovation Alliance.
尊敬的各位专家、各位同事，大家好。首先，祝贺世界慕课大会的召开，祝贺虚拟仿真与高等教育转型分论坛的召开， 感谢各位专
First
家
of all,
即将做出的精
congratulations
彩
to the
报告。
convening of the Global MOOC Conference
2020年
and
是
the
不平凡
Forum
的一
on
年，
Virtual Reality
突如其来的
and
新冠肺炎疫
Transformation
情给
of
各国
Higher
带来严
Education.
重冲
Thank you for
击，
your contribution.
给世界人民的健康
2020 has been
带
an
来了严重
extraordinary
危害，
year.
也给大学
The
教育
COVID-19
带来了严
pandemic
重冲击。
has proposed
在这个背景
challenges
下，
to all
举办世界
countries
慕课大会，
and the health
举
of all
办
the
虚拟仿
people,
真
as
与高
well
等
as
教
to
育转型
university
分论坛，
education.
具有特殊的
Against
意义。
that backdrop, we are convening
现代大
the
学
Global
呈
MOOC
现了一些
Conference
新的特征，
and the Forum on
学
Virtual
科分
Reality
化与问
and
题
Higher
综合的矛盾，
Educational
对高等
Transformation.
教育
It
提出
is
了更高的
of
要求。
special
自然科
significance.
学与人
Modern
文科学
universities
研究
are
方法
having
论
some new
日益趋
features.
同，
The
更加依赖
contradiction
于实
between the
验支撑。
division among disciplines and the
现代大
comprehensive
学
nature
不
of
断向
problems
教育本质回
is
归，
posing higher
培养人的目
requirements
标
on higher
既是知
education.
识分子，
Natural
又是
science
劳动者，
and humanities
不但要做
are
纯净研究，
converging
而且要服务社
on
会，
experimental methods.
既是上层建筑，
Modern
又是经
university
济基
is
础。
going back to the nature of
这些新特
education.
征，
The goal
我们得
is to
关注和研
cultivate
究，
intellectuals
相应的要推
as
进教育
laborers.
变革。
It should aim at both
这些
pure
年来，
research and
计
social
算机和网
service.
络技术飞速
It
发
should
展，
be not
以此
only
为基础的
superstructure
人工
but
智
also
能、
economic
虚拟仿真技术
foundation.
和装
So
备
we
也
need
突飞猛
to
进。
pay attention to
这些
these
技
new
术装备
features
条件
and
为构建
drive
虚拟世界
transformation.
提供了条件，给
Computing
人们探
science
索世
and
界
internet
提供了无限
technologies
可能，
have developed very
为
fast.
教育教学
On
方
the
式
basis of
开辟了广阔的
that,
前景。
VR and AI have also
现代大学
developed
的特
very
点
fast.
和培养目标
These
如何与
equipments
现代技
have
术相结
provided
合，
conditions
需要
for
关注科
people
学
to
技术的特
explore
征
the
和规
world,
律，
and
需要从心理
it has
学、
provided
教育学的角
conditions
度研
for
究
more
授受规律，
educational opportunities.
需要研究虚拟仿真
How
技
can we
术和装
combine the
备
goal of
如何
modern
构建教育
university
环境
and the
和教
modern
授对
science?
象？
We need to
我
pay
相信专
attention
家们
to
都
the
已经做了
laws
深入的研究，
governing these
一些内
scientific
容也将在
development.
接下来的报告
We
中
need to
有精彩的
approach
呈
the
现。
educational
我们
phenomena
需要把有关
from
内
the
容综合起
perspectives
来，
of
切实面
psychology
向
and
教育实践，
education theories.
不断
We
提
need
出
to
有价
do
值的思
further
路和
research
方案，
on VR
促进
and
高等
its
教育转
role
型，
in
为人类不断学
transforming
习进
the
步，
educational
特别
environment.
是为世界高
I
等教
believe you
育
must
做
have
出
done
更
a
大
lot of
贡献。
research on these
再
topics,
次向各位专
and
家
I
表示感
believe you are
谢，
going to
也欢迎和
contribute
感谢线
your
上的同事
wisdom to the
参与。
conference. We are going to
祝
collect
大家
your
健康愉
brilliant
快，
ideas
谢谢。
to provide new ways for the transformation of higher education and to contribute to the learning and development of the humanity. I would like to express my gratitude to all the experts and all the participants. I wish you healthy and happy. Thank you.
今天我们的第一位讲者是麻省理工学院教授爱德华·克劳利。克劳利教授是麻省理工学院航空航天系和工程系教授，他的教学和研究主要集中在空间系统、系统架构和系统工程。他现任印尼巴厘岛清华东南中心代理校长兼教务长。克劳利教授是美国国家工程院院士、中国工程院外籍院士、俄罗斯科学院外籍院士。他是全球工程教育改革计划的联合创始主任。Now, let's invite our first speaker, Professor Edward Crowley. He is a professor of Aeronautics and Astronautics Department and of Engineering Department at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. His teaching and research focus on space systems, system architecture, and system engineering. He is now the acting president and provost of Tsinghua Southeast Center in Bali, Indonesia. Professor Crowley is a member of the United States National Academy of Engineering, foreign member of Chinese Academy of Engineering, and foreign member of Russian Academy of Science. He was the founding co-director of the Global Engineering Education Reform Program, known as CDIO. Welcome, Professor Crowley.
Hello, I'm Ed Crawley from MIT, And today I'm talking about virtual reality and NEAT. These are both programs of educational transformation. I want to acknowledge the help of my colleagues at MIT, Mark Patha and Bobby Mitra. NEAT is the new engineering educational transformation. It's the pathway at MIT where we bring new ideas in engineering education and roll them out. It's about reimagining what and how our students learn to better prepare them to make the important contributions in the 21st century. There are 4 NEAT student-focused principles. We derive these principles by a lot of interaction and discussion with our students, stakeholders in government, industry, and the faculty. The first of the 4 principles is the new machines and systems. We want to prepare students to build the things that they'll be building in the middle of their careers. The second is the ways of thinking, the patterns of cognition that our students acquire at a university. The third is the patterns of discovering and making. Some of our students will become scientists and discover. Some will become engineers and build. And finally, we want to support learning by what we call the mobile digital natives. The first of the 4 principles is the new 21st century machines and systems. On the right, you see a drone. It's made of plastic, it's powered by electricity, and it's flown autonomously. On the left, you see a Boeing 747 when it was a new airplane in the 1970s. It was made of aluminum, powered by kerosene, and flown by a person. So clearly, the machines that our students will be building in the future look different than the old machines. But we persist in using the old machines as the model of education. We have to transform this. We have to move the model of education to the new machines and systems. And this is not just in airplanes. It's in new materials, new molecules and biomolecules, processes and systems, software and software services, electromechanical devices, and more. What's the relationship between new machines and systems and virtual reality? It's very obvious. The virtual reality is a new machine and system. It's not something that your fathers learned about or your mothers learned about in university. It's evolved in the last decade. Virtual reality supports, however, learning about new machines and systems. It's a way to learn about things, particularly at the interface of the physical and computational worlds. For things like robotics, digital cities, and allowing students to explore places it's hard to explore, dangerous places like nuclear reactors or the deep sea, or unreachable places like Mars. The second of our principles is the ways of thinking. What are the patterns of cognition, the ways students think about things? You can identify computational thinking, creative thinking, system thinking, thinking about working with other people, thinking about your own values. These are all ways of thinking. It's interesting that university professors think that the most important thing is to convey facts and data to students. But in fact, students forget most of the facts and data within a few years. What the result of a good university education is that they have acquired new ways of thinking, and that's what they carry into the rest of their lives. I've made a list of some of the important ways of thinking on this slide. Humanistic thinking, thinking about our role in society, self-learning, how we teach ourselves, personal skills, particularly ethical related skills, analytical thinking, critical thinking. Virtual reality might help in learning these things, but it would be a tough sell. On the other hand, the column on the left, virtual reality is really a key way to teach these things. Experimental thinking, computational thinking, creative thinking, interpersonal thinking and relating, and importantly, system thinking. These are areas where virtual reality can really help in teaching the ways of thinking. Making and discovering in virtual reality, the third principle. Making is creating things that have never been before. And virtual reality really enables this type of making. Discovering, on the other hand, is finding new phenomena or explaining it better than has ever been done before. Virtual reality encourages this type of exploring. Finally, virtual reality and pedagogies for the mobile digital natives. I believe that mobile digital natives, that is to say students born after the year 2000, assess data and information differently. They have higher expectations that data is always available and that code and procedures are checked in. I recently had a student in my office who I asked to do a certain type of analysis, and he looked at me and he said, "Don't worry, Ed, I can find a code that will do that." He wasn't even interested in writing a code. He was of the mentality that he could find a code to do that problem. MIT, over the course of the last decade, has rolled out a lot of programs based on digital education. They were the founders of edX. They created some of the early MOOCs. They've created micro-master's programs where some of it master's degree is done online and some in person. XPro is the professional education based on digital media. And the Integrative Learning Initiative is an initiative to understand how digital learning works. I think we should add virtual reality to this list of ways in which pedagogies are developed designed for the mobile digital natives. Well, just to show you what the result of this set of principles were, there's this diagram. On the left-hand side, labeled Department X, is a typical departmental structure where the students enter and take some subjects and take some subjects and take some subjects and obtain a degree in the major. Or they might be in Department Y that leads to a different major. What we created was cross-departmental project-centric threads. So the students enter Department X and then take Project A, which goes and connects, you might call it diagonally, to some of the subjects in Department Y, and then goes diagonally through Project B, and so forth. So the idea is that there are diagonal pathways cut across departments, and that these are established by a series of well-designed project learning experiences. So ultimately, the students obtain degrees in majors and a certificate in neat threads, that is to say, the diagonals. Looking at this, we hope that we can figure out how to introduce virtual reality into the design of this kind of education. Thank you for your attention.
接下来，我们有请奥地利格拉茨工业大学副教授乔安娜·皮尔克。皮尔克博士是一位计算机科学家，他的研究兴趣是游戏的开发、研究和教学。他的报告题目是 "The future of learning is immersive." Now let's welcome Professor Joanna Perker. Dr. Joanna Perker is a computer scientist focusing on game development, research, and education. The title of her talk is "The Future of Learning is Immersive." Welcome, Professor Perker.
So thank you so much for joining my presentation today, and thank you so much for this kind invitation to this conference. My name is Joanna Pirker, and I'm a researcher and computer scientist at Graz University of Technology. I lead a research group which is called Game Lab Graz, and we focus on games and virtual reality experiences for different purposes, such as learning. I am probably most known for a virtual reality experience called Maroon, which is a virtual lab which is designed to help students to learn physics and chemistry and computer science. And it was even listed in the Forbes magazine. But I'm going to tell you more about the final part of this presentation. I would like to start this presentation with my personal motivation why I started to research learning environments. And it was pretty much seeing pictures like this in real life. A guy standing in front of a blackboard and reading out formulas. And this is not how I wanted to learn. I had issues to concentrate, and I didn't feel engaged by that. And this did not change over time. if we look at the new generations, these are generations which often have issues to concentrate. And there are very specific reasons for that. Their smartphones are with them all the time. It is hard to concentrate if a Facebook or Instagram messages pops up constantly. And also you need to think of this fact that this is a generation which grew up with the smartphones and the internet always accessible. They do not know a world without the smartphone. So how do we teach someone how to learn in a proper and motivated way if their knowledge and information would be always in the pocket? Educational researchers and designers, we need to ask ourselves the following questions. How can we design environments which are engaging for them and make it attractive again to learn? And how can we help them to concentrate in these environments? And if we think of a technology which is super engaging, then probably games come into your mind. This is a picture taken in a stadium filled with video game lovers who actually watch others play. And I believe we need to understand better what is so motivating for these new generations about video games and how can we use this knowledge to design the future of immersive learning environments. But first of all, I would like to take away some of those typical biases. Because if I talk about games, many people think about typical gamer sitting in a basement, eating pizza and playing World of Warcraft all night long. But we need to understand that this is just a bias. And if we look at statistics, I am a gamer. I'm around 30 and female. I brought to you some statistics from the Entertainment Software Association, and they tell you that the average age range of a video game player is between 35 and 44 years old, and 41 of them are female. And interestingly, 65% prefer to play video games with others. So those are really interesting facts we should keep in mind when we design interactive learning environments. And games have been always a big inspiration for me, and I believe that they are the best way to learn. So my first game which inspired me probably to study science is the one on the bottom right. This is called Incredible Machine, and it was really about building crazy machines. And the last couple of days I spent quite a lot of time with the one on the bottom left, which is a super advanced version. It's called Opus Magnum, about creating incredible machines. And you learn so much about construction and engineering by playing those games. And games also give you a lot of insights into empathy. This is something, for instance, which is super hard to learn otherwise, because games give me the option that I am part of the experience. So for instance, in the Polish game, This War of Mine, this is a war game, but you are not the war hero. You're a civilian just trying to survive. And being part of this experience and going through this experience makes you learn. And in the game That Dragon Cancer, for instance, it was created by a couple, and in real life they had a baby boy. And when this boy was 12 months old, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And they wanted to share the story, how they went to treatment, and things sometimes looked good and then they didn't look so good, and then there's no happy end. They wanted to share the experience with players. So you can play their experience. You're part when they're going to therapy. And this is how you learn. Being in someone else's shoes, for instance. Seeing through someone else's eyes. And this is what we call immersion. And we use this sort of learning and interactive engagement also to design learning environments. In this case, a virtual laboratory where you can interact with physics experiments. And we did nothing else but creating a video game in this case. It's using a game engine. We are using game design techniques, such as all the interaction design techniques, all the movement techniques, and we really try to learn from what is well done in the games industry and make learning environments happen that way. So I believe that with games and game-like environments, we can really create environments which are engaging. But we also need to think about how can we bring back their focus and help them to concentrate. And there's one technology out there which is really helpful in sweeping us from our feet, quite literally. So this is virtual reality, and this is really a technology which changed so many of our lives and will change. And I believe that the use of virtual reality in education can be a real game changer in the future. It has so many different application scenarios in STEM fields, in medical fields, in training of employees, or also in remote collaborations. And I want to show you a little bit that I don't believe that VR is the future, but VR is already the present. Just look at the hype cycle for emerging technologies of 2017. So this is even an old one. You can already see that virtual reality was way behind the peak of inflated expectations and was on the slope of enlightenment when people started to learn how to properly use VR and the VR technologies. The same is happening for augmented reality. So what changed? I mean, back then, VR is not a new technology. We know so much about creating good VR experiences from 30 years of research. But back then you had to pay the price of a car to get such a headset. Whereas nowadays, like the Oculus Quest, for instance, is about $300 and is so immersive. So it's no wonder that you can find it already in so many industry. So for instance, at the bottom right, you can see it used in a car manufacturer to show the different designs of the cars. It is used to help soldiers through the post-traumatic stress disorders. It is used in Walmart to train employees. Or an interesting study also showed that using virtual reality to train quarterbacks is actually more efficient compared to letting them watch traditional videos. So you can train and use it in so many different disciplines. And for myself, I set my goal that I want to change the way how we learn through virtual reality. So for me, virtual reality is really a super interactive and immersive experience. It gives me the chance, as you can see here on the example of our project Maroon, that it lets you dive into a laboratory. And we really try to make it as realistic as possible. And all the interfaces are not heads-up displays, as you might know, but interactive creative displays, and invite students to try out things. And we implemented Maroon in Austrian schools, and we gave the students both a virtual reality version and a PC version to test. I mean, both come with drawbacks and both come with upsides. So for instance, of course, a web version is very easy accessible. However, a virtual reality version really lets you immerse into this virtual laboratory, and you can do all the experiments which would be otherwise too expensive, too dangerous, or really hard to reproduce. We also tried a version for the mobile phone. So here the interaction is a little bit more cumbersome, but it still works when you interact with your gaze with the different experiments. So you're controlling basically this virtual world with your gaze. The upside is definitely that you can use it with your own mobile phone. So to summarize, virtual reality but also games come with so many benefits for learning, so especially the feeling that you are at a specific place or part of a specific experience, that you can conduct expensive, dangerous, difficult, impossible experiences. You can really learn by doing and have an embodied experience. It helps you to focus because there is no smartphone in the virtual reality. And it gives you possibilities to make unseen things seen and give you a visual learning experience of a different kind. If we look at some statistics, the most common VR activities, interestingly, are multiplayer experiences. So I think for the future of learning and designing virtual reality environments for learning, we need to think of ways how to integrate collaborative experiences in the classroom. So for my vision, I see people grabbing their goggles when I would tell them, let's go to the physics laboratory. And everyone grabs their goggles and goes to the virtual physics laboratory. And I really hope that the future schools will have not only a physics lab and a chemistry lab, but also a virtual laboratory where your students can do even more sophisticated experiments or visit the Maya monuments. So thank you so much. I hope I inspired at least some of you. And if you have questions, please reach out to me.
下一位是来自北京师范大学的黄荣怀教授。黄教授是教育部第2届教育信息化专家组秘书长，虚拟仿真实验教学创新联盟技术委员会主任，北师大教育信息技术协同创新中心副主任。他的报告题目是 Design Immersive Learning for Virtual and Simulation Experiment. Our third speaker is Professor Ronghuai Huang from Beijing Normal University. His talk is about design immersive learning for virtual and simulation experiment. Welcome, Professor Huang.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ronghuai Huang, Co-Dean of Smart Learning Institute of Beijing Normal University. Today, I'm happy to join the fantastic event. I want to share some opinions on design immersive learning for virtual and simulation experiment, VC. Before we talk about the VC in education, we can see the explosion of virtual reality technology and the VC in the past few years. In higher education, there are 300 national VC teaching centers, including 221 for science and technology, 53 for agriculture, philosophy, and medicine, and 66 for criminality and social science as well. You can find this information on the website iLabelX. And also we can find a lot of resources for basic education. You can find the same resources on the website 101 Lab, which is published by NetDragon. If you talk about the VR annual education, we normally can see 3 eyes. The first eye is immersion. VR is able to visualize complex functions and provides students an opportunity to learn through experience. The second eye is interaction. VR in education makes it easy to engage students to whole time, making experience memorable. The third eye is imagination. VR sparks the imagination and encourages creative thinking. Actually, the fourth eye, implicit learning. implicit learning through embodied immersive virtual reality. You can find some theory and case studies in our book, Virtual, Augmented and Mixed Reality Education, which published in 2017 in Spring Places. Actually, VR is popular in not area. In academic area, we can see the popularity of VR reality and related research education. You can find some information in the top academic journals. From the top to the bottom, you can find the information, keywords, virtual reality, interactive learning environment, simulations, education, Polscape, medical education, teaching and learning strategies, multimedia, hypermedia systems, human computer interface, and training. Actually, the key ideas of VR education is immersion. Psychological immersion is achievable in any of these interfaces by design strategies that combine actional, social, symbolic, and sensory factors. And also we can design different education media for immersion, which include virtual simulation, constructionist activities, embodied cognition, and elected immersive narratives. That is the first issue we can think about the VR in education. The second one is the steps for starting virtual and simulation experiment, which include tutor preparation, student preparation, experiment conducting, report writing, outcome, and evaluation. You can find the information in our handbook. We see Premier concept, technology, architecture, and the implementation of virtual and simulation experiment. The third one is we need to know the basic components in Visa Label, which including human-computer interface. It means multi-channel inputs, including voice, vision, gesture, and multi-sensory outputs, including sight, sound, and touch. The second component is Visa Terminal Platform. We need to upload interactive data stream to cloud and pass multimodal presentation from cloud. The basic infrastructure is Visa Cloud. Nowadays, you need to provide resources and computing services for Visa. Actually, it's very important for the Visa in larger scale. The first one is to deploy the virtual and simulation laboratory. Actually, we need to, based on learning experience, to design the lab for VR. And also we need to generate VR resources and share VR resources to other platforms, to other students, to other classrooms, even to other universities. And also how to develop resources of VR is also very important, including 3D model, programming, and publish. And also we need to know how to deploy the process and including the platform. Actually, this architecture is very important to understand how to conduct, how to deploy the virtual and simulation laboratory. The fifth one is resource development. Actually, this is the key, is the basic information for the teachers to conduct VR in education. The first one is learners' cognition and credibility. We can find different kinds of resources, including procedure-based, data-based, reality-based. As it depends on different subjects you will be used. Also, we need to define data structure, including how to present 3D model, how to compose the 3D theme, and render 3D scenes to images. The third one is build. To build a 3D model, we need to find some modeling tools and reconstruction algorithms. The first one is how to make 3D programming. It's also very important in some, especially in science and technology subjects. We need to graphic laboratory interface and the 3D engine. Engines also is the key issues. The next one is how to publish the resources. This includes statistical contents, how to use the network applications, how to make real-time interactive applications, make it happen. Is also is very important. The last one is the evaluation. We need to evaluate the resources, system learning process, and the cognitive ability. For example, evaluating the experimental resources, including the experiment design and the learning resources. Evaluation of experiment system consists of the readability, usability, stability, and the convenience of the experiment. The assessment for learning includes the instructor preparation, learner preparation, experiment processes, and the lab report. We need to know the visa is successful or not. The next one is cognition capability assessment, which includes the environment and the user experience, and also creational capability. Actually, there's so many things we need to consider, and also we can use the emerging technology in these areas. So VR education is key issues, which including the experiment. It's very important in nowadays, even after the pandemic. Next, I wanted to say today, thank you for your attention.
接下来，我们有请美国亚利桑那州立大学教授米娜·约翰逊。约翰逊教授在学术界和工业界两个领域工作。他目前的研究重点是使用游戏、混合现实或虚拟现实的 STEM 教育。他今天的报告题目是 Embodied Education in VR。Now, let's invite Professor Mina Johnson. Professor Johnson works in both academia and industry. Her current research focuses on STEM education using games, mixed reality, or virtual reality. Today, her topic is Embodied Education in Virtual Reality. Welcome, Professor Johnson.
Hello, thank you for inviting me to present at this conference. I'm going to talk about some exciting things that we're doing in the lab, and the title is Embodied XR, Results from Mimic Study and Future Work. My name is Dr. Mina Johnson Glenberg, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might email to me. So what does it mean to be embodied in education and using virtual reality? This means that the body is the controller and it's moving things around on screen or in the visual world, the virtual world. Decades of research support the use of body-based metaphors in learning. Significant learning gains have been seen when the learner is active, moving, and when their gestures map congruently to the content that they're supposed to be learning. Probably this is because an extra sensory motor signal is adding to the learning signal. There are three constructs that we use in my lab to measure the amount of embodiment in a lesson. So you can think of this as a cube, again, a 3D space. And those three axes are the congruence of the gesture, the sense of immersion or presence, and the magnitude of the gesture. So congruence means that what you're doing maps to what you're trying to learn. So if I'm teaching someone about a gear and I want them to understand the velocity of a gear and the way it turns, I wouldn't have this be the gesture. So if I'm using the connect sensor, I wouldn't just push forward. I would want the student to be doing this, spinning their arm to learn about direction and velocity. So that's the first construct. The second is how much immersion and or presence that you feel. And so I know these are two different things. Immersion is a property of the the mechanics that you're using. It's a property of the system, the technological system. And presence is a feeling, a subjective feeling that you have that you're in another place. But I think we can say at this stage with high fidelity of virtual reality that when the technology is more immersive, you feel like you're in a 360-degree environment, then presence is also going to be increased. Those two correlate highly. And finally, the magnitude of the gesture matters. So how big is the gesture? So if I'm spinning my arm like this in an embodied way, is that more embodied than this, twirling the finger on a tablet? Don't know the answer to that yet. I've created several design guidelines for creating STEM content in VR. There's a Frontiers article out that has all 18 guidelines, and I have a shorter one that's called the Necessary 9 that you could look for if you just wanted to look at the favorite 9. So I have a spin-out company from the university. It's called Embodied Games, and I want to show you one game that we built and is now available for use for like fourth graders and higher. It's in the Oculus store. If you search under the word Mimic, you could find it. The game was funded by NSF, and it's free for everyone. It's in 4 languages. So let me just exit really quick and show you a video that lets you understand what the Catch a Mimic game is about. These are screenshots from the Go headset. So it's a little lower resolution than in the Rift. Here, what you're trying to do is use the net to capture the non-poisonous butterflies. So some are poisonous and some are non-poisonous, and over generations, the non-poisonous ones evolve to resemble or mimic the poisonous one, so they won't be eaten by the birds. It's a short 8-minute experience. It's in 4 languages now: Greek, French, English, Spanish. I would love to put it in Mandarin if anyone wants to do some translation. It's just text-based up there, telling kids what to do. And here you see we give immediate feedback. When they capture the correct one, they're getting a green heart. And when they capture the incorrect poisonous one, they're getting a red skull and bones. So back to the presentation. In the Catch a Mimic game, the learning goal is Batesian mimicry, and your point of view is as a human zookeeper capturing butterflies for the birds to eat. There's a clock down here at the bottom, a red timer that lets you know when a level is about to be done. Each level lasts 60 seconds. So there's 6 levels and there's some reading. So again, it ends up being about 8 minutes. Players have to deduce which butterflies are good, non-poisonous, during the 6 levels of play. One of the things we wanted to research was how can we put embodied assessment into VR STEM education? And so this concept of population dynamics can actually be difficult to teach, even for college students. And so we wanted to embed interactive assessments during the play. So I'm going to show you one question that we worked on. This one question took weeks of iterating to phrase it appropriately for middle schoolers. And the question is, move the handles on the bars to show your best guess. What are the chances of survival for each butterfly species? So they've already seen these 5 species, and they're going to make a prediction about which one's going to survive by the end of the game. And these blue ovals snap to either low, medium, or high. So they make predictions about these 4 bars on the right. They hit submit, and then they get immediate feedback where they right or wrong. If they build this interactive bar chart incorrectly 3 times in a row, then we go ahead and animate it or build it for them just to show them the correct answer. So in many cultures, up means more, right? So this was an embodied way that we had them either use the mouse or the VR hand controller to grab the blue oval and pull it up to fill up the bar with this green color. So we asked this twice during gameplay at the end of level 2 and at the end of level 5. And let me share with you some results from a study we finished at the university comparing the 2D PC, playing the game there in WebGL, versus playing it in the Oculus Go headset, a 3D VR situation. This was a 2x2x3 randomized control trial. The first factor was platform, 2 levels, either the 2D PC or the 3D VR. The second factor was embodiment with 2 levels, either low or high. And then we had 3 time points, so pre-test, immediate post-test, and a 1-week follow-up test. We designed an experimental designed measure on content knowledge of natural selection. And we have several other DVs, and one I'll talk about today is the efficacy of the embedded assessment and its reliability and validity. So here's what it looks like in a 2x2 table. Over here for immersivity, we have low being the PC and high being VR. And over here for active embodiment, we have low. In this condition, they're watching a playback of someone else capture the butterflies. So they're able to navigate through, they have the agency to navigate through the system and to do the interactive bar chart, but they don't actually get to use the net and capture the butterflies. So in the low embodiment one, they're watching a playback of someone else who's done it. And in the high embodiment one, they are agentically using either the mouse or the VR hand controller to capture the butterflies as they fly around. So yeah, I just explained that. In low embodied, they could advance the text cards, but only in high embodied did they have the agency over the swinging net. The results. We had 217 participants from our Psych 101 subject pool. So these were college students. Only 3.5% had ever been in a VR headset before. They were randomly assigned to one of the 4 conditions. They were all matched at pre-test. That was good to see. And then the knowledge test that we made up for natural selection was a mixture of open-ended questions and multiple choice, and the score range was 0 to 30. No one ever got a 30, even at post-test. So it was sort of hard. Okay, overall, significant gains were seen in learning. That's nice, right? So everyone learned. T of 14 is lovely. But what we care about are the group gains, right? So we want to look at the 4 groups individually and understand, did those in the VR condition learn more? That would have been my personal prediction. And did those in the high embodied group learn more? Is there an embodiment effect? Let's see what we got here. We regressed post-knowledge on these variables here. So I bolded what's significant. So prior knowledge significantly predicts post-knowledge. We would expect that. Embodiment significantly predicts post-knowledge. That's nice to see, an F of 6.6. And platform did not. However, there was an embodiment by platform interaction that was significant with an F of almost 6. So what's going on here? I want you to focus on this green line. So the top line, the green line, is the high embodied VR group. So again, they were all matched at pre-test, but at post, those in the high embodied VR group learned more. That was nice to see. We predicted that. These 2 PC groups didn't vary at all. So watching the playback or doing it yourself with the mouse didn't affect your learning. Everyone came up almost similarly. However, if you were in the low embodied VR group, your learning was truncated. So a pairwise a priori test shows that the low VR group did significantly worse than all 3 of the other groups. And that's why there was no main effect for platform, because a closer look at the interaction reveals that the low embodied VR group, they're truncating or pulling down the grand mean for learning in that VR group. I guess, like, for me, what this means is that platform is not destiny. Design of content matters more than the platform you experience it in, perhaps. So you should be careful as you design. There were other variables that we gathered. So remember the interactive bar chart. We also gathered self-reported presence, engagement, and agency. How much control did they feel they had during the game? I'm just going to quickly show you a path analysis that we ran. We retained all the links with p-values below 0.06. These numbers here are standardized beta weights. And so, you can see that there are direct and indirect effects on post-test and also retention. I split these up by time. I sort of binned them by what did we have at pre-play, prior knowledge and assignment to group, what was going on during play, the agency they felt, and also the in-process bar chart, the bar graphs that they were filling up, call that in-process. And then post-play presence and engagement that they reported, and then also the knowledge tests. So it's interesting to note here, the orange links mean that they're negative, and that makes sense, that the more in-process tries you're doing, the worse you're going to do on the post-test. So that sort of validated that as a measure. Embodiment and platform have indirect effects. The take-home message is that VR educational designers should be careful about inserting non-interactive content, for example, passively viewed videos, into immersive VR. We should strive to make the content interactive and as embodied as possible. So I think I'm up with 11 minutes now, and if you want to cut this, you can. Thank you, and email me if you have questions. But if this can go on a couple minutes, I'm just going to show you some of the new stuff that we're doing at Arizona State University. So we've just launched a new website, xr.asu.edu, and we're building lots of cool VR things and using students as the builders. So we're working with the Learning Futures Collaboratory and Meteor Studios, and one thing we're excited about is the Career Arcade. So here's a shot from the construction room. Like those students who are thinking about maybe going into construction, we're going to let them get in and play with some fun things. So for instance, the Craniac game, where you're moving crates around in VR, also in WebGL 2D. In the back here, you can see our interactive BIM house, where they can play with wiring and plumbing. We also have a Build a Bridge game. And my favorite is the Save the Building game. So teaching students about tuned mass dampers. So the player has control over 3 settings: the mass of the damper, the length of the cables, and K, the stiffness of the pistons that hold up the damper. So these are the pistons here at the bottom, and these are the 4 cables. And if you think that looks a little bit like the damper in Taipei 101, you're correct. When I went there last year, I was so excited about that damper. It's fun to make a game about it. So one way to make this embodied is that we're letting the students start the earthquake. So they'll either take their mouse or take the VR hand controller and shake it back and forth, and that will map to a certain magnitude of an earthquake. See on the Richter scale here, whenever they hit 3, there'll be a small break. If they hit 6, there'll be a large breakup of the building. Here's the way that looks when it shatters. And then they have to go back and reset the variables if the building shatters, and reset the tuned mass damper variables. So it's fun, interactive. We're excited about it. It should be done in about a month or so, and we're really excited to get on to 2021. We're creating this independent XR studio, training dozens of undergraduates in Unity to help us co-create and co-design educational content. And we're, of course, always excited to partner with other universities as we create and research the efficacy of AR and VR games for learning. Thank you.
下面我们有请来自澳大利亚邦德大学的詹姆斯·比尔特副教授，他是邦德大学社会与设计学院的副教授。他在新兴技术、计算机游戏、教学和学习方面拥有丰富的经验。他的演讲题目是 Teaching Building Information Modeling to Postgraduate Students Remotely at Bond University. Now, let's invite Professor James Burt. Professor Birch is an associate professor of computer games, information, and computer science in the Faculty of Society and Design at Bond University, where he runs the Mixed Reality Research Lab. His research spans computer science, games, and visual arts, with an emphasis on applied design and development of interactive mixed reality experiences assisting learning, skills acquisition, and knowledge discovery. Today, Professor Bird's talk is about teaching building information modeling to postgraduate students remotely at Bond University. Welcome, Professor Bird.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. James Burt, one of the Associate Professors here at Bond University in the Faculty of Society and Design. So what innovation am I doing in the teaching and learning space? So this specific innovation is looking at how we go about teaching building information modelling to postgraduate students here at Bond University. Now, what's really interesting is traditionally the way that we teach buildings or built environment is using orthographic photographs, using 3D software and authentic classrooms, which is obviously what Bond is known for, where we teach the students in the classroom and then we go out into built environments and other places to sort of capture their understanding of both the classroom side of learning as well as the built environment. But one of the issues that we have when we go into the like on-site or to the built environment is how do they see inside the buildings? How do they look at things like the plumbing or the mechanical layers or even the air conditioning? So we started to think about these issues and try to solve these issues. So a number of years ago, I started to work with Mark Borman, who teaches the professional portfolio. And we started to conceptualize different ways of the students, as well as the lecturers, being able to teach and explain the parts that we can't get to easily anyway inside of these built environments. So I started to use virtual reality as a way of being able to explain the environment, being able to look at the different layers inside there. But the question became, how do the learners get their hands on this? So what we started to look at was being able to have them use things like the HTC Vive here and get them inside the equipment, get them playing with this stuff so that they could experience these environments for themselves. But the problem then became, how do we scale this? Because these classes aren't just one person, two people, or three people. We're looking at like 50, if not up to 70 students in these postgraduate construction courses. So we started to ask the question, what else can we do to be able to get this to happen? So what happened last year was that new types of virtual reality headsets became available, and here was one of them that we started to adopt, which was the Oculus Quest. Now, the advantage of this over something like this is that this one here, which is the HTC Vive, it costs, let's say, around about $1,500. But you need about a $3,500, if not more, computer to drive that. So we're looking at like a $4,500 piece of equipment. Whereas with the Oculus Quest, we're looking at around about $600. So the scalability and the affordability of having more of these made sense in the classroom. So the question then became, how do I create experiences in virtual reality that would have worked brilliantly well on this piece of equipment, and how does it work on this piece of equipment? And look, we use the Unity game engine to be able to achieve these results where we can create deployed solutions onto these virtual reality headsets that work both in these tethered approaches as well as these mobile. But our old friend coronavirus came along, and the issue with coronavirus was that we had a semester, which was at the beginning of this year in 2020 in semester 1, where the students couldn't use the headsets, that we couldn't have them put on the Oculus Quest and do that in a manner that met with our restrictions around cleanliness, health and safety that we obviously wanted to try to achieve. So we had to come up with a new solution. So that solution was, how do we take our existing assets that we have, and that is assets of the architecture building, assets of the sustainable development building, which the faculty actually spent a bit of money on building these built environment models of, and we were able to source these models and integrate them into augmented reality. Now, what's the difference? So virtual reality, you're really looking at something that brings someone into an environment. It's all encompassing. It's essentially taking away the real world and presenting the virtual. Whereas with augmented reality, we're essentially putting a digital overlay over the existing world. Now, the question was, how do we deliver this when traditionally augmented reality might be delivered through something like the HoloLens or the Magic Leap? These are quite expensive pieces of equipment. Look, I've got a couple of these and we have used these in the classes before, but that's not very scalable. So we had to use a different solution. So what do we look at? Well, every single student has one of these, and they usually have a smartphone that's at least within the last 5 years. So we said, how can we translate those models that we have onto their smartphone? Now, it just so happens that I've been working on smartphone innovation, both from the virtual reality and augmented reality, for about the last 7 years. I've received 2 national teaching citations related to my work on mobile mixed reality, which is obviously the umbrella term for virtual and augmented reality. So we started to explore this idea of a bring your own device solution to augmented reality application. And we came up with a design that allowed them to simulate the building by presenting it onto the ground in front of them, scale this building, and be able to click through different layers of the building to visualize things like the architectural model of the building, the plumbing, the mechanical layers, the air conditioning, and also the electrical layers of the building to get a better understanding of that built environment. Now, we also did this in situ in the environment. So the students walked around the Sustainable Development Building, they used this augmented reality app, and then we had lockdown where we weren't able to be on campus anymore. And again, that threw another spanner in the works for how do we deliver this content? Well, the advantage is, of course, because it's on their bring your own smartphone device, the augmented reality app had already been built in semester 1 of this year. So now we're moving into semester 2 and we're looking at trialing the same app through an online remote fashion to essentially enable these students to continue their learning experience by using this augmented reality app and supplementing that with pre-recorded 360-degree video of the physical environment to essentially allow them to contextualize their learning, but also be able to continue their lessons and have that incredible experience at Bond University that we're well known for. So I look at the future of AR and online learning as not just being driven by the technology alone, but rather this understanding of technology, how we manage change, how we modify and do things ourselves to be able to update our own knowledge and our own capacity, and really educate ourselves around what is possible to be able to achieve these goals and really increase our capacity as learning providers to support this scalable deployment of devices, applications, but also us as workers to be able to keep the innovation going and to be the best we can be in a learning and teaching environment. So thank you very much for listening to this presentation.
现在我们来欢迎来自清华大学的范文慧教授，他是清华大学自动化系教授，中国仿真学会副理事长。他的主要研究方向是协同仿真。他给我们带来的报告是多学科协同虚拟仿真教学平台。Okay, our next speaker is Professor Wenhui Fan from Tsinghua University. Professor Fan is a professor of the Department of Automation of Tsinghua University. He is also the vice chair of the Chinese Society of Simulation. His research interests is about collaborative simulation. Today, his topic is multidisciplinary collaborative teaching platform with virtual reality. Welcome, Professor Fan.
各位专家，我今天向各位汇报的题目是多学科协同虚拟仿真教学平台。
The topic of my presentation today is virtual simulation teaching platform for multidisciplinary collaboration.
一个是多学科协同虚拟仿真，第二个是多学科协同
There
虚
will
拟仿真教
be
学
three
平台。
parts.
第三个
Part
是
1
多
is
学科
virtual
协同虚拟仿真
simulation
教学
for
的案例。最后
multidisciplinary collaboration. Part 2 is a virtual simulation teaching platform for multidisciplinary collaboration. And Part 3, I'm going to share some cases of virtual simulation for multidisciplinary collaboration before I make a conclusion. This is my self-introduction. I'm a professor in the Department of Automation, Tsinghua University, and standing vice president of the Chinese Simulation Federation. First, a virtual simulation for multidisciplinary collaboration. Collaboration refers to the process or ability of coordinating two or more different resources or entities to achieve a goal in a consistent way. The collaboration theory was proposed by the famous physicist Harken, professor at the University of Stuttgart in the Federal Republic of Germany in 1971. The collaboration effect is the whole effect produced by the interaction of multiple subsystems in a complex system. Collaborative innovation is the innovation that breaks through the barriers between disciplines and is realized through interdiscipline, interconnection, and interoperation. What is virtual simulation? Under multidisciplinary collaboration is a method to analyze and verify a complex system by using the tool or model of multidisciplinary virtual simulation to achieve the overall performance of the system. And secondly, virtual simulation teaching platform for multidisciplinary collaboration is a platform we developed which adopts an internationally accepted co-simulation standard called HLA 1516. Interface to achieve reuse and interoperability of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. What does that mean? Let's say I have 3 domain platforms, one for control, one for dynamics, and the other for another discipline. I can take advantage of this interface and put all of them into the co-simulation platform for collaborative development. The supporting environment is called RTI, Runtime Infrastructure, which is equivalent to the supporting environment for collaborative simulation operation. It's equipped with different types of adapters. For example, if the simulation model is compiled in Fortran language, there is an adapter for Fortran. If it's compiled in commercial dynamics software, ADAMS, there is an adapter for ADAM. If the simulation model is a control model by MATLAB, then there's an adapter for MATLAB. Of course, there are others such as special Vampire for our railway system or thermal analysis called APCUS. They all can be plugged in. There are several functions or modules from the perspective of the underlying software in our developed platform. One is a Federation Management Service. There are 20 of them. The second is Member Declaration Management Services. There are 12 of them. The third is Object Management Service. There are 18. The fourth is Time Management, which is quite important. There are 23 of them. The fifth is Data Distribution Management. There are 12 of them. And there are 16 Ownership Management, Auxiliary Operation Support Tools, and 28 services. We also accomplished in Fortran language, if there is any single disciplinary model in Fortran language in collaborative simulation, the 15 corresponding services are also needed. We have 129 basic software services to run the supporting environment, 15 services of the Fortran adapter. There are altogether 144 such services. The third one we are going to talk about is teaching cases of multidisciplinary collaborative simulation or the cross-disciplinary collaborative virtual simulation. Through the case, we can know that collaborative aspect of teaching is very important. One is from the perspective of tilting car. Tilting car is when a car passes through the curve. It can actively tilt the board. If a train wants to tilt actively, dynamics, control, and hydraulic system will be involved. It means 3 disciplines. Then I use 3 tools. ADAMS for dynamics, MATLAB for control system, and HopSpan for a hydraulic system, 3 simulation software, 3 single-field simulation software, and now the car is a whole, and it means naturally that multidisciplinary coupled together. Then in order to do such collaborative simulation, we have built such a collaborative development environment through which we have realized the collaboration of 3 fields, of 3 disciplines for tilting car, dynamics, hydraulic, and control as a whole. The second case is the collaborative simulation of 200-kilometer high-speed EMU. 200-kilometer EMU are generally divided into 8 cars in our domestic operation, which means the first 8 ones and then last 8 ones, so they can generally be connected together. Then the 8 cars are divided into the front car, middle cars, and then electrical area, the body area. There are 8 cars totally. How to carry out our collaborative simulation for these 8 cars? If I analyze its performance in the circle railway, the model of multidiscipline are needed that we have established. And this is its dynamic model. This is equivalent to the connection between cars. The link part does not solve the hook and hold between cars. This hook and hold method is very difficult to simulate, and we regard it as a control discipline and then use MATLAB to realize it, and the dynamics of the car atoms to realize. So it's equivalent to how the collaborative simulation runs. There are 5 computers. Each computer supports the model for 2 cars. Together with a connection model, it means 5 computers support 8 cars. 4 connection models runs here. And how many connections are there for the 8 cars? 7 in all. Now 4 connections only are settled. There are 3 others. They are arranged on another computer. So you can see from the structure there are 5 computers that are connected in the LAN. And then a dynamics model of 8 cars and 7 control models run on them, which are coupled together to execute the collaborative simulation task. This is our RTI supporting environment. It can connect the 8 cars in the local area network, and this is our simulation of the curve. And its dynamic curves can be seen. And then this is its curving performance, and it is dynamic performance. So you can see from this, our case of a multidisciplinary collaborative virtual simulation. One is a tilting car, the other is complex product at like 200-kilometer EMU. It solves many disciplines. So if we want to understand this problem through integration of multiple disciplines, we need such a teaching case. Finally, conclusion. Firstly, collaboration is the inevitable requirement of discipline involvement. Whether the system can play a collaboration effect is determined by the synergy of the system composed of various subsystems within the system. If you cooperate well, the overall performance of the system will be good. So collaboration is an inevitable requirement for the development of the discipline, because any system is combined by subsystems. If the coordination of subsystems does not act well, the overall performance cannot be good. Secondly, multidisciplinary collaborative simulation is one of the most important simulation research, and everyone knows simulation is getting more important. It goes gradually towards an independent discipline, and it's a development direction, and it's also a challenging frontier technology, which is virtual simulation. Multidisciplinary collaborative virtual simulation technology is challenging frontier technology of virtual simulation. Thirdly, teaching platform of multidisciplinary collaborative virtual simulation is strong support for interdisciplinary integration teaching. We all know that development of interdisciplinary integration is an inevitable trend, and the future cannot be separated from intersection of discipline. So if our students want to master the integration of multiple disciplines and learn and master this interdisciplinary knowledge, how to teach teach and how to learn? What is the supporting tool of this teaching? In particular, what's virtual simulation teaching tool? So I think the multidisciplinary collaborative virtual simulation teaching platform is very important. It's extremely important for students, especially when you learn multidisciplinary integration of knowledge. So in my opinion, this teaching platform is a strong support for integration of disciplines and teaching. If our students want to learn the knowledge of interdisciplinary integration, we can't do without the support of the multidisciplinary collaborative development of teaching in the future. That's all. Thank you.
接下来，我们有请意大利热那亚大学的阿格斯蒂诺·布鲁佐内教授，他是热那亚大学国际硕士项目 MIPET 主任，国际建模与仿真学会理事会成员。布鲁佐内教授的研究重点是 HLA、虚拟现实、SG、DSS 和 HBM。他的报告题目是 Higher Education Transformation with Virtual Simulation. Now, let's welcome Professor Agostino Bruzzone. Professor Bruzzone is a full professor in Genoa University. He is the president of simulation team and also the director of the international master program MIPET at Genoa University. Today, his topic is Higher Education Transformation with Virtual Simulation. Welcome, Professor Bruzzone.
Good morning or good afternoon, based on your time zone. I'm Agostino Bruzzone from Genoa University. I will talk to you about how higher education could be transformed by using virtual simulation. In some reality, it's something that we already are doing. In fact, modern simulation is very popular in training and education since forever. It has been used initially for flight simulator, a very good example, wargaming in defense. It's very popular, but there are many applications of training and simulation. We do for operating crane in port, we do to operate a control room of a nuclear power plant, but even a conventional plant, or control room of an oil platform, many different sectors for training and education. Obviously, this is evolving due to new technology, but nowadays with virtual simulation, we can make very effective to show what we have in the model. If you write a model about an explosion or diffusion of a pressure wave, thermal wave, diffusion of a contaminant, we can make a dynamic virtual simulation that show how it happened. This is very good for learning, it's very good for training. We can show industrial process. We can overlap information to reality and making it by augmented and extended reality, making a common framework that could be very useful for training and education, and especially education. Education is going by distance learning and web technology since long term, but there is a great potential in adding simulation. To give you an idea, we was doing with our course mostly, for instance, Strategos last year before COVID in September was doing 40% of the lecture available on the web, but the COVID crisis changed everything really drastically, and in 2 weeks we moved from 40 to 90, in 2 other weeks we moved from 95 to 100%. Nowadays, we are going totally 100% on the web. And not only lecture, but even, let me say, using a simulation. Traditional simulation was in the classroom. This is an example application we developed to train operator of a machine for food and beverage. And we carried out several experiments on the field, even in the plant, even in the classroom. It was possible to play with the virtual machine, it was possible to play with the real machine, it was possible to play seeing the virtual machine overlapped to the other one, and that was what we was doing. Nowadays, with COVID, we have to move not only the virtual simulation in the classroom, but to move the people back at their home to operate remotely to guarantee social distance. And we bring over the web the distributed simulation. These are examples where we can use simulation to create a complex framework where we can train people, like in the case to train people, for instance, how to handle a crisis in an industrial plant facility. This technology, obviously, that could be very useful by using extended reality and virtual simulation. Have a big potential, give great advantage that probably we expect they stay. This is an example where somebody in front of a real rack, we use the same model, virtual, in order to understand how it works, this rack, and can operate a simple person, this one, or can an engineer learn how to do. And at the same time, he can play with a virtual framework, so virtual on real on virtual, or real on real through a virtual model. And we expect this will stay, and so what we are learning in terms of doing things that we was doing already since here, but doing intensively, allow us to learn a lot how we can develop the new education and training program. I'll give you a couple examples. This is MIPET. MIPET is a one-year program after Master Science. This is an Italian master that we see similar to an executive master, very technical for project engineer of a big industrial plant, so chemical plant, power plant, iron and steel, construction, etc. This was going using a lot simulation on the class, because in this way the student was able to learn how to operate some machine before to go on the plant. And obviously it was fully sponsored by industry, with 50% of teachers from academia and 50% from industry, and even the people from industry was learning to teach in this way. A very good example in MIPET is project management module that is 1 week intensively that end up with a real role play game where the class have to take a competitive cooperative role in terms of procurement, engineering, construction, and commissioning, and they use a simulator as ground truth. So it means that they make the planning, the operation, and what happened, it's provided by the simulator as it was the real case, so they can train, they can learn to work on their own objective as well as in common objective, as when they have to manage a complex project. In this case was a project of a power plant. Strategos is another very good example. Strategos is devoted to strategic engineering. Is a new discipline. This is the first Master of Science in Italy on strategic engineering, one of the first around the world, that use simulation, modeling, data analytics, artificial intelligence, all together in closed loop with reality to take decision. This is a very good example because for strategic decision making to have virtual simulation is a must. This is the case on Strategos we carried out last year. We will repeat even this year. It's a joint initiative of Genoa University in Italy and JCU in Singapore, James Cook University Singapore campus. This is a student pitch. They do a game to address a problem. In this case, last year the problem was about the New Silk Way, so the logistic connection from Far East to Europe. And they use obviously extensively models in order to investigate alternative and new solutions. In this sense, it's very interesting to consider that virtual simulation is not just to train on operating a machine like a classical flight simulator or basic physics, but could be even addressing strategic issues that, in fact, when we deal with strategy, that could be urban transportation, it could be logistic, retail, port activity, industrial production, and so on. They are pretty complex systems. They need model simulation to investigate. And could be a common framework to learn the principle, to experience what is happening. Okay. I make an example in terms of pandemics. Pandemics was a good driver for extending our model and virtual simulation to the class. We carried out, I feel, 11 sessions on last year on pandemics, working concurrently with other sites in Italy, China, Singapore, Germany, France, and so on. For instance, these are models devoted to reproduce the behavior in a town, and you can evaluate how the epidemics diffuse. So you can learn the mechanism, you can learn the impact of the different parameters. You know the model, but something is to know the model, something is to do. You know that the big potential of virtual education is that we make experiment on a virtual reality. This could be done for operational purpose, so to train the operator, for instance, to train operator on how to organize a checkpoint, how to handle when there is some contaminated people. It could be good even to train at more high level. In this case, TOPRO is another virtual environment, another example we can use to train how to organize a town to manage the situation of a pandemic in a town. At the same time, even to evaluate a new solution. Even in TOPRO, you can consider new solution as an autonomous system that could be used to inspect, to reach, etc., as well as different innovative technology could be impacting on that. This could be a very good way to make scenarios that allow us to learn how to deal with new things, because in some cases we have to learn about things that we don't know really too much. Another example, completely different, is marine. We have done many models, and they can run from a cave, this is a basic cave developed for educational purpose, as well as from a simple headset. This cost is around 40,000 euro. This cost is around 40 euro. So you can imagine the big potential to investigate this scenario with this different framework that allow us to give to each single student this smart solution, smartphone solution integrated, or to access on our cave. Another example is about safety and security that are major issue currently. This was a project we carried out 5 years ago in cooperation with the Science and Technology Organization, NATO, and addressed, for instance, aspects about terrorism. But there are many of these ones that could be very important and effective, and we can use it to access problems within urban or cyber attacks to infrastructure. So I feel this provides you a good example. Currently, we are doing something similar for the sector of water strategy. I thank you very much. If you have any question, I will be very glad to answer.
下一个报告是来自新加坡南洋理工大学的蔡义宇副教授，他现任南洋理工大学终身教授、虚拟现实和软计算战略研究计划主任以及计算机辅助工程实验室的教授。他的报告题目是 Virtual and Augmented Reality Technology Enhanced Learning. Now, let's welcome Professor
伊于蔡
He is an associate professor of Nanyang Technological University. His research focuses on virtual reality, deep learning, and their applications in engineering, education, and biomedicine. Today, his topic is virtual and augmented reality technology enhanced learning. Welcome, Professor Cai.
I'm going to share with you virtual and augmented reality technology enhanced learning, or VATEL. NTU is a very young university, like one page of blank papers. You can write a lot of beautiful things. NTU simply like to write those innovations. Okay, it is a global university, and therefore education innovation is of a higher priority. Let me start with pedagogical innovation. We start around 2000, adopt this Blackboard as the e-learning platform. Okay, also around 2003, during the SARS pandemic, a lot of professors start doing laptop-based video recording, then classroom-based video recording later on, those green and blue screen type of video recording for the purpose to improve the quality of video. I myself gone through the entire process, converting a number of my subject into the lecture into the MOOC form. But very soon we realized MOOC alone is not sufficient for students to fully understand their concept, especially those difficult parts. Therefore, I together with my colleagues, we have a team developing this Vatel solution for the whole universities. Principally, we come up with this so-called in-depth learning pedagogy. It is to support innovative and interdisciplinary learning using the approach like inquiry, collaborative, simulation-based kinds of learnings. Eventually, we hope to have personalized learnings, fun learning, and readily available for all students from NTUs. The principle behind those innovation or change actually is quite simple. We want to teach less, learn more. And we are moving away from the traditional heavy lecture type of teaching into project-based, hands-on, more discussion presentation type of active learning. And for that, we realize there is a need to do something with the learning space. Okay, this is very classical, traditional kind of auditorium for lectures. And today in NTUs, we have quite several new buildings. This is the one called the Hive, supporting small team-based learning. And here is another building called the Arc, similar to the Hive, except they are more space for students to do social and communications. Apart from the new facilities, we actually figuring out to reduce some of the space, like this is corridor outside my laboratories. Okay, and this is next to the car park. We changed the corridor into something learning space as well. In NTU, we have quite a number of fast food restaurants. Students can do learning as well as teaching at the same time. Okay, in the same Hive, we have a small new library, which allows students to learn there as well as stay overnight if they want. Okay, this is called student activity centers, and the student can do play hard and learn hard, right? So for now, touch a little bit on the edu-technology innovation. And this is also in the Hive. We have a one room. I spent a few years to make it changed into a so-called Vatel flip classroom. This invention allows students to stay there 24-hour a day for 7 days a week. Okay, you can see here, principally it's a team-based and project-based learning space. And we have this room one designed for multiple disciplines. And the idea is to actually help students, let's say physically or traditionally, if the learning is not easy or very difficult to utilize, then here this flip classroom can serve, for instance, manufacturing engineering student to learn virtual machining, okay, for aerospace engineering to learn this jet engine kinds of engineering knowledge and skill. And for automobile engineering students, they can come to this flip classroom to do F1 assemblies. And for construction and civil engineering student, they can do building information modeling and lifting in the virtual construction site. For our chemical engineering student, they come to the lab to do virtual pilot plant to learn something called distillation operation. And for science, biological student came to this lab to learn in silico laboratory to learn the cell molecular biology, physics, mathematics, even humanities. And we provide this room to serve multiple kinds of discipline learning. And in summary, this Vatel flip classroom is for innovative and interdisciplinary learnings in a so-called immersive and interactive virtual augmented reality environment, and to help students better understand those abstract concepts, complex structure and a dynamic process. Okay. We know content is always king. In this Vattel flipped classroom, you have to develop a lot of content for engineering. Okay, here are examples. And you can see also science contents like design, like math, like geography and biology. And here a few examples from human biology to cell molecular biologies, virus, DNA, okay. And in summaries, Vattel flipped classroom is actually learning environment integrating hardware, software, pedagogy, and the content we created for this learning. Okay, let me show you a videos. This video actually, just hold on. Okay, so for these educational innovations, I believe without our research, and it is almost impossible to have those things. Okay, so let me quickly share with you our favorite research, for instance, simulation and a serious game. In fact, this is a protein, and we model it something like a roller coaster. And on the right side, you see a great wall. So student can play or game with this roller coaster and the great wall by extreme type of game to learn the molecular and the protein secondary structures or tertiary structures. And we also have a lot of interest doing research on virtual reality continuum. From the virtual end to the physical end, we can do any kinds of virtual reality spectrum. And for that, you have various different VR and multi-modality ARs. And for in-classroom learnings, we typically use virtual reality for better quality of the modeling and visualization. And after class, students can use their own smart device to do additional learning, use the same model but simplified. Okay, we have also a lot of interest in artificial intelligence. 2 years from now, we are going to I'm hosting a conference in terms of medical AI called IKAI in Singapore. And we have published quite intensively with several books with Springer and visualization, on VR, on simulation, and a serious game for educations. NTU has responded to COVID-19 pandemics and the new normals, and we have this MOOC around 1,000 subjects already in the form of MOOC, and we have also developed technology-enhanced learning on virtual augmented reality technology learning to help our students better understand their concept. Okay, and we are also developing e-exam kinds of solutions. Okay, over the last several years, our research has received positive kinds of response from several countries. I was invited to give a sharing in the UNESCO Paris last year, and next month I'm going to host a conference called Simulation and a Serious Game for Education. And I have been working very closely with my collaborator from Asia, from Europe, and from Africa. Okay, that's about for my sharing. Thank you so much.
今天最后一个报告是来自秦经燕教授，他是北京科技大学工业设计系系主任。他报告的题目是未来可期、未来可爱、未来可敬的虚拟仿真实验教学。Next, let's invite Professor Jingyan Qin. Professor Qin is the Vice Dean of School of AI and Innovation. She is also the director at Industrial Design Department, School of Mechanical Engineering, Beijing University of Science and Technology. Today, her topic is the bright future of virtual simulation-enabled experimental teaching. Welcome, Professor Qin.
大家好，非常荣幸参加2020世界慕课大会。
Good evening.
今天和大
I'm
家分
honored
享
to
的
attend
是
2020
未来
Global
可
MOOC
期、
Conference.
未来可
My
爱、
topic
未
is
来可敬
VR
的虚拟仿
simulation
真实验教学。
experiment teaching.
我是北京科技大学秦经燕教授。
My name is Qin Jingyan.
教
I'm
育
professor
在于
of
传承
University
与
of
开
Science and
拓我们
Technology,
人类的群
Beijing.
体智慧。
Education
在
is to
2020年
inherit
特
and
殊的
develop
年份
our
里，
collective
新冠疫情
wisdom.
的黑
In
天
the
鹅
special year
让我
of
们改变了
2020,
教育的方
the
式，
new
使得我们体
pandemic
会到
has
人类的
been
教
the
育是一
black
个
swan
共
that
谋
has
发展
changed the
的
way of
共生
education,
共赢共
making
同
us
体。
realize
同时，
that
教育
human
也使得我们
education
人类
is
成为
a
一个共
win-win
同生
community
存的
for
秘密
common
共同
development.
体和
At the
人
same
类智
time,
慧传承的
education
文
makes
明
us
共
a
同体。
community of shared future and a civilized
教育
community
有
of
培育
human
学
wisdom.
生认识美、爱好美和创造美的能
Aesthetic
力的美丽，
education is to
有对社
cultivate
会
the
成员
students'
在政
ability
治、
to
思想
understand,
与道德
love
等
and
方面
create
施加
beauty.
影响
Moral
活动的领
education
域，
is to
有传
exert
授科学
influence
知
on
识、
social
体验
members
科学思
in
维方法
morality.
和科学
So,
探究方法，培
science
养科学
education
精
is to
神与
teach
科学态
scientific
度，
knowledge,
建立完整的
experience
科学知识
scientific
观与价值观，
thinking
进
methods
行
and
科研基
scientific
础能力训
inquiry
练和
methods,
科学技术应用的
establish
科
a
律，
complete scientific
有建立
outlook
健全
on
人
knowledge
格，
and
具有敏锐
values.
社会洞察力，超越自
Social
我认知
cultural
想象力的
education
领域，
is to cultivate
有
the
通过有
ability
规则
to
的身体
transcend
运
the
动，
culture
改造人
and
的
build
自
up
身
the
自然
social
的社会
insights.
实践活动的体
Physical
力。
education are social practice activities of
我们知
transforming
道，
people's
第一代
self
文盲
nature
是不
through
会识
regular
字的
body
人，
movement.
第二代文
We
盲是
know
不会找
that the
信息
first
的人，
generation
而
of
第三代文
illiterates
盲则
is
是不懂
illiterate
人工
people.
智能、
The second
大数据、
generation of
互联
illiterates
网、
are
虚拟
people
现
who
实
can't
等数
find
字化生
information.
存的人。
And the third
教育
is
在于通过
people who
传
do
道、
not
授
understand
业、解
how to
惑，
be
消除文盲
digital
与蒙昧，
and how to
培育
use
真善
AI,
美的
big
价值
data,
观，
internet,
创
and
造人
virtual
类共同
reality.
体的美好未
Education
来，
is the way
不
to
会造福
eliminate
全球人
illiteracy
类
and
与人民
ignorance
大
and
众
to。create a better future
我们的
for
教育
human
内容
community
有
and
知识
benefit
教
all the
育，
people.
也有认知教育，更有情
Our
感教育
education
和情操
includes
教育。
knowledge
我们不
education,
仅培育学
cognition
生的心智
education,
与技
emotional
能，关注
education,
世界
and
观、
sentiment
人生观、
education.
价值
We
观的老
cultivate
三观的培
students'
养，
minds
更
and
关注
skills.
面向未
We
来的
also
新
pay
三观，
attention
包
to
括
their
未来观、
outlooks
全局观、大
and
局观
also
的原
their
教育、
values.
原语
And
言、
also
原
we
创新
focus
和原
on
学习。
cultivate their understanding of the future
颠覆式革新了教育的理念。
innovation
2020
and
年席
of
卷全
learning.
球的新冠疫
Modern
情，
university
从虚
education
拟
has
现实、
revolutionized
万物互联、
the
大数据、
educational
人
concept.
工智能的技术
The
部首，革新了教育中
COVID-19
的核心五
has
要素关
swept
系。
the world in
通过虚拟
2020.
现实的可为
It
与
has
不可为，
changed
构建
the
起围绕人类的学
concept
习
of
行为本
education.
身
Now we
五
have
个教
more
育要素的
virtual
多维
reality.
转化联
We
动
have
关系。
Internet of
五个
Things.
核心要
We
素
have
包
big
括
data and
学习
AI
study
to
学
innovate.
生 student 学者
And we have
scholar
five core
学校
elements,
school
which
学
includes
社 society
study,
由此构
student,
建成
school,
全息交感的
scholar,
教育
and
生态系
society.
统。
And they are a
虚拟仿
holographic
真教学实验
educational
从8大
ecosystem.
类目中加持赋能
Virtual
教育的效
reality
能，
simulation
包括
experiment
基础类
teaching、
机械类、信息
empowers
类、
the
土建类、
effectiveness of
画盘
education,
类、生
which
物类、
includes
医
the
学类
categories
和
like
文科类。
basic, mechanical, information,
我们可
civil
以在宇
engineering,
宙尺度
chemical,
之下
and
做基础的
environmental,
科学实
biological,
验，
medical, and
模
liberal
拟
arts.
仿真高
We
危
can
险、
do
高
basic
阶性、
scientific
高挑战
experiments
度
under
的
the
教学
cosmic
实验，
scale,
完成在
simulate
现
high
实
risk,
世界里
high
不可
order,
能
and
完
high
成的
challenge
学习任务。
teaching experiment
我
and
们可以在
complete the
人工智
tasks
能
which
与
we
人类智
cannot
能的
do
融合
in
智能
real
之下，
world.
建立值得信任的新型
Under
人
the
类移动
integration
性
of AI
human
and
mobility，
human
依
intelligence,
靠
we can
无人驾驶
establish
车
a
和
new
无人
type
机
of human
获得新
mobility.
型的路权博弈
We can
关系，
obtain new
探
rights
索无
of
人之境。
transportation, way game, mechanical,
我们
and
可以了
explore
解
no
工
man's
业机器
land
人
by relying
精
on
妙复杂的
autonomous
机械自动化
vehicles
结
and
构，
UAV.
体会智能制
We
造
can
的产业
understand
规
the
模生产
exquisite
力，
and
获得
complex
现代自动
mechanical
控制探
automation
索科学
structure
原理
of
的乐趣。
industrial robots,
我们可以
experience the
进入到
industrial
神奇的
scale
计算世界，
productivity
掌控
of
看不见的
intelligent
大数据，
manufacturing.
探秘
We
原
can
子
enter
加
the
密
magical
特的
world
信
of
息世界的
computing,
奥秘。
control the invisible big
我
data,
们可以
and
在祖国
explore
的
the
大地
secrets
上
of
大刀阔斧地
the
进行
atom
土木
world.
建设，
We can
承
carry
办
out
智能空间
civil
的建筑设
engineering
计与数字智慧
construction
城
on
市
the
的规
land
划，
of our
体
country,
会中华
undertake
传统文
architectural
化、营
design
造
of
法
intelligent
式、
space
榫卯结
and
构等的
digital
精妙，
and smart
再
city
现国家
planning.
文化软实力与传统文化的千年华
And we
彩。
can reproduce our soft
我们可以
power
带
and
上
our
仿
traditional
真设
culture.
备进行画环实验，
We
在
can
原
wear
子和
VR
分子等微
simulation
观层
equipment
面
to
理
carry
解物
out
质变化
chemical
的规
and
律，
environment
并用化
experiment
学元
to
素改善和
understand
提
the
高人
laws
类
of
的生活
material
质量，
at the
解决社
atomic
会与
and
环境的
molecular
可持续
micro
发展问
levels,
题。
so that we can improve the
我们可以
quality of
探索
people's
发现
lives
神奇的
and
生物
address
世
the
界，
problem of
探秘
sustainable
人类以
development.
外的其他
We
生
can
灵
explore
和生态
and
系统，
discover
遨游
the
引荐美好
magical
的自然
biological
环境
world,
和人文环
explore
境。
the ecosystems,
我们可以
and
关
we
注人
can
类健康
roam in
本
a
身，
beautiful
不
natural
仅
and
治
cultural
病，
environment.
更是
We
治
can pay
未病，
attention to the
获得
human
人类
health
健康
itself,
生长、
not only
生
to
生不
treat
息
the
的生
diseases,
命密码。
but also to treat
我
and
们可以运
predict
用
the
虚拟
diseases
仿
that
真、
may
人
occur
工
in
智
the
能、大
future.
数据分析，
We can
助力
use
生化医学、
virtual
宇宙遨
simulation,
游，
AI,
助力
big
医
data
生与化
analysis
学
to
家找
help
到精准匹
develop
配的医药，
biochemical
虚拟
medicine,
仿真新冠疫苗的
universe
试药场景，
discovery,
解
help
码人
doctors
类
and
健康密
chemists
码，
to find
构
accurate
建人类
matching
健康生
medicine,
命的命运共同体。
simulate the drug testing of
我们可以研
new
究人类社会独
COVID-19
有的政
pandemic
治、
vaccine.
经济、文化，
We can
突
study
破自然科学
the
文化
unique
构筑的
politics,
营、
economy,
医、
and
恩
culture
以外的
of
世
human
界，
society.
超越人类
We
不
can
知
make
道所不知道的
breakthroughs
认知极
in
限与
natural
生活困
science
境，
and
体验美
culture,
好的
and we
社
can
会科学
transcend
文
our
化和
cognitive
人文艺
limit
术设计文
and
化
the。prisoner's dilemma, and
虚拟
experience the
仿真实
beautiful
验教学
social
课程
science
建
culture
设，
and
力求面
humanistic
向
art
创造
design
未来
culture.
美好的
The
智能生
construction
命形
of
态，
virtual
制造
reality
生产
simulation
方式，
experiment
智美
teaching
生活
course
文
aims to create a bright future intelligent life form, intelligent production mode, intelligent and beautiful life culture, and wisdom survival civilization. Jaspers, a famous German philosopher, said, "The essence of education is that a tree shakes another tree, a cloud pushes another cloud, and a soul calls upon another soul." Education is to awaken the true, the good, the virtue, and the nature, and to explore the sustainable future. Education enables us to harvest knowledge. VR simulation experiment teaching can break the barriers brought by the COVID-19. Let us share our collective wisdom. We can understand the hard-earned fun through the access of online education resources.
而更重要的是，让我们构建起学习社群、融创校友的宝贵的人脉资源，赢得相互信任的联系。虚拟仿真实验教学打破有墙大学的界限，让听课教育资源无障碍分享，增进学习的信任感，构建共同进制的人类教育命运共教育唤醒了人类三位一体的同情心、同理心和同道心。虚拟仿真实验教学为我们的世界提供了理解他人的不一样的维度与视角，避免零和博弈的冲突与伤害，形成共赢共创人类群体智慧的体验。流水不腐，户数不蠹，教育让我们由内而外产生学习的动力。虚拟仿真实验教学带着我们对于大千世界的疑惑与宝贵的好奇心，通过模拟仿真危险的、不可逆的、高代价的、现实中不可能完成的高难度学习任务，带给我们惊叹的教学相长成果。未有知而不行者，知而不行，只是未知。教育让我们具有思辨的精神，不断发现问题，探索问题，解决问题。虚拟仿真实验教学让我们接近零成本的在发现解决问题中不断反思成长，最大程度地发挥了教育的社会价值。教育让我们回归社会责任与家国担当。虚拟仿真实验教学让我们在学而优之、习而习之的游戏性的学习机制中，平衡喜欢和讨厌的关系，获得学习的艰辛的高级的快乐，赢取社会认同的工作价值。教育让我们勇敢地探索过去，充分地体验当下。
Education allows us to explore the past bravely, fully experience the present, and boldly predict the future. VR teaching, using the virtual scene, it provides the real experience, an abundant experience for us. Education makes us realize the imperfection of the individual, help us to overcome the human weakness, and help us to realize ourselves. The virtual reality teaching provides the knowledge graph of various disciplines for the whole mankind. It accurately matches the multi-dimensional relationship between learning and education. Education enables us to open our minds and obtain a pair of eyes for discovering beauty. If you want to be more beautiful, please smile at everyone. If you want to show the beauty of your body, you should learn to make way for others. If you want to make your hands more beautiful, you should learn to reach out to help others. VR teaching makes the relationship between education and learning become a happy, interactive mode. Education has built a knowledge graph for us. VR teaching has greatly expanded our knowledge graph. Through informatization, digitalization, networking, and intellectualization, VR simulation has built a teaching platform which recognizes no distance, so that learning will become a way for people to have new friends and new teachers. Education allows us to achieve our self-goals when we promise to realize goals of others. VR helps us to have a mutual assistance in education. Education enables us to remain optimistic in difficulties and humble in prosperity. It is not only a choice but also a wisdom. VR teaching can reduce the cost of knowledge cognition and the trial-error learning mode. Education enables us to understand the ability to love and be loved. VR teaching helps us to get rid of the shackles of insufficient teaching resources, lack of communication between teachers and students, help us to explore the unknown, help us to embrace unconditional and real love, and help us to learn, understand, respect, appreciate, trust each other. And we will be more forward-looking and get real happiness from education. Education enables us to love ourselves, others, and the environment. We are teaching. Let us study in a way that we can train our brain and we can rest our mind. We are teaching endows us with a systematic view of knowledge and enables us to carry out lifelong learning and interactive learning. We know that under the holographic interaction, we can have better effect of education. Education enables us to realize that we are giving to others while we receive from others. So by this, we can build a good relationship between the supply and the demand of virtual teaching, learning, and study, so that we can realize a sustainable education. VR teaching enables our education and learning to be able to explore various possibilities of intelligent life form, intelligent production capacity, intelligent and beautiful lifestyle, and intelligent ecological civilization. Our mission of education is to build a community of shared future for education and to realize sustainable development. In the 5S double cycle holographic education ecosystem, we focus on cycle of teaching and education, cycle of studying and learning, cycle of education and industry, cycle of science and technology and humanities, cycle of art and science, cycle of low and high dimensions of information, cycle of localization and globalization, and the cycle of aesthetic value and scientific principles. So these cycles will help us to obtain a predictable, lovable, and respectable future. The future is today. Every possibility is happening today. Let us build a VR simulation experience teaching mode and create a win-win future. Thank you very much.
好，接下来我们进入仿真赛介绍环节。首先有请清华大学姜永亨副教授为我们介绍智能网联汽车设计仿真赛的有关情况。他是清华大学实验室管理处副处长，中国虚拟仿真实验教学创新联盟副秘书长，主要研究方向是教学和科研实验室管理、虚拟仿真实验教学、复杂系统等。Now let's move to the next stage, imitation computation. The first competition is from Dr. Yongheng Jiang. He is an associate professor of control science and engineering, vice president of Laboratory Management Office, Tsinghua University. His research interests include platform management, experiment teaching by virtual simulation, and complex systems. Welcome, Professor Jiang.
大家好，我是清华大学实验室管理处的姜永亨，也是智能网联汽车设计竞赛的秘书处的负责人。那么下面我来跟大家介绍汇报一下这个赛项的基本情况。
Good evening. I am Jiang Yongheng from Tsinghua University. I'm also the responsible person at the Secretariat for ICV contest. Here I would like to brief you on this contest. ICV Design Contest. is a part of the engineering training contest for university students. I would like to first talk about what is ICV, second, the main thinking behind the design of the contest, third, an overview of the contest platform, and fourthly, some householding issues. We all know that the vehicles have experienced significant revolutions from carts to cars. Such a revolution has greatly boosted people's ability, and at the same time, people have turned from chauffeur to drivers. On the one hand, we have requirement for the skills of drivers, and there might be some safety accidents. And on the other hand, we have traffic jams, and we have higher requirement for environmental protection. So how can we liberate the human drivers? How can we increase the efficiency? These are important tasks for us. With the development of computer science and internet, we are now having more opportunities of taking advantage of these technologies to have better and more optimized design of cars. So we have ICV, or the Intelligent Connected Vehicle, as such. The development of cars have four trends. First, it depends more on electronics. And now we have a lot of EVs, and the energy comes not only from fossil fuel, but also from solar energy, wind energy, and other forms of energy. The second trend is becoming more intelligent. As I mentioned, because of the development of internet and computer science, as well as AI. The third trend is more connectedness. Connectedness, on the one hand, provides more effective information for the driving of a car, and on the other hand, it offers more computing power support. During that process, we have the fourth trend, that is sharing. The ICV is actually a combination of intelligent car and an internet of cars. It has advanced sensors, executors, and controllers, taking advantage of internet technology, modern communications technology, and big data. It can realize safety, comfortable driving, energy saving, and high efficiency. This is the structure for the technology of ICV. For a car, on the one hand, it needs to sense the environment. On the other hand, it needs to sense its own position. And there will also be some driving requirements. And it needs to make some decision planning, and then it will execute these decisions and plans. So that is basically the technology structure of ICV. In designing the contest problems, we take into full consideration the technical advances in ICV. So we emphasize the reality of the industry. For example, we refer ourselves to the road management regulations of Beijing City, and we designed the contest scenarios following the assessment and methods for automatic driving cars. So all the contest problems are focusing on automatic driving decision making and control algorithms. And through this contest, we hope that those contestants will go through a comprehensive training. ICV will be related to car, mechanical industry, automation, computer science, electronics, and AI. And because this contest is having university students as the contestants, so it is done through virtual reality. And in VR, we can actually invite students of multi-disciplines to join. They can design some simple algorithms or complex algorithms. And we have basically two types of items for contest. We have advanced assisted driving and automatic driving. For assisted driving, we have contestants to be tested in emergency braking, lane maintenance, and automatic parking. Actually, these technologies can help those drivers in reality. As for the automatic driving group, we have continuous scenarios which requires comprehensive techniques. In assisted driving, we will design different problems. Each problem contains one scenario, and the contestant should complete the driving task in a certain scenario, and we do not require one algorithm for all the problems. This will reduce the complexity of the contest, and the platform is going to score the accomplishments of the tasks, and there will be very clear rules. So this is the first scenario. The previous car stops, and when you detect a car stopping in front of you, you need also to stop. So this will require that the car can accomplish this task of stopping in a certain period of time. After your car stops, there should be an appropriate distance between you and the previous car. This is the second scenario. The previous car is braking, so the contestant's car should also brake, and there is a certain period of time for braking, and this braking is done in order to avoid collision. And here we have a pedestrian crossing the street, As for the automatic driving item, we also design scenarios, but these scenarios are more complicated. Our contestant must design a unified algorithm for all the driving tasks, such as changing lanes, taking turns, or braking, and you need a unified algorithm for different scenarios. And you need to have a unified framework. And the platform will also score on the basis of this unified algorithm. So we have basic problems and additional problems. And the basic problems are simpler, and the additional problems will be more difficult. For example, this is one of the scenarios. From a starting point to a finish point, you need to reach the finish point within a certain period of time, following the rules, and this is about changing lanes. As for continuous scenario, which is more complicated, and we require that the algorithm must be able to adapt to all kinds of road conditions. And you need to also consider the time limit. I have talked about the design of the contests and the problems involved. And here I would like to talk about the system, which is the NEVC SIM1, which is provided by the National New Energy Car Technology Innovation Center. And this is an environment for virtual reality and simulation. In this system, we have different moving targets and also roads, lanes, traffic lights, etc. And also this platform provides an automatic scoring system and a driving score report and also a ranking list. So these are some of the parameters as listed. Finally, it's about the timeline of the contest. The contestants can download the platform software on their own computers, and they will receive some training from the organizing committee. And during the designing process, every week they can provide their driving report, and we are going to have a weekly ranking list. On the basis of this ranking list, we are going to have a monthly ranking list, and there will be champions for the month. On the basis of that, we are going to select the teams which will participate in the national level contest. And the national level contest will be done on the unified platform. That's all. Thank you very much for listening.
下面我们有请北京航空航天大学刘虎教授为我们介绍飞行器设计与仿真赛。他是北京航空航天大学航空科学与工程学院飞机系主任，航空科学与技术国家级虚拟仿真实验教学中心副主任，航空器先进设计技术工业和信息化部重点实验室副主任，虚拟现实技术与系统国家重点实验室 VR 加航空领域学术带头人，主要研究领域为飞行器体系化设计与运用技术。The second competition will be introduced by Professor Hu Liu. He is the Dean of Department of Aircraft in the School of Aeronautics Science and Engineering of Beihang University. Professor Liu is also the Deputy Director of National Virtual Simulation Experiment Teaching Center of Aeronautics Science and Technology. His research area is aircraft systematic design and operation technology. Welcome, Professor Liu.
Good evening. I'm glad to share with you on the topic VR track aerobat design and contest. This is me in reality. My name is Liu Hu. I'm from College of Aeronautical Science of Beihang University. I also serve on Aviation Science and Technology National Lab, VR Technology and System Lab, as well as Advanced Aircraft Design Technology Lab. I believe it is because of the integration between the technology and engineering education that we can explore and realize this contest. So here are the major contents of my talk. First, an overview. This contest belongs to the series of contests for comprehensive engineering competence, which is hosted by the Ministry of Education. And this is a nationwide university student contest, and it is a very good platform for education and cultivating of innovative talents. And this is one of the 3 big contests hosted by the Ministry of Education. And for the 7th contest, the title is Pursuing Excellence in Engineering and Serving China's Manufacturing Industry. It focused on nurturing high-level engineers. It aims at establishing a platform for collaborative innovation and serving social needs. And it combines contest and training and prepares an innovative talent pool for the future manufacturing. This contest is high level with new dimensions, new measures, and new standards. So this contest has the track of engineering, intelligence, VR, and engineering maker. So we are now focusing on the VR track. Aerobat design VR contest includes 2 types of problems. First, platform-based. Second, system-based. Platform-based is involving multidisciplinary design, and for the system-based, it is mainly about design and application in different scenarios. So you can get more information from this website, which is about the engineering training competence contest. Now let me give you an introduction about those platform-based projects. So the teams will be going through preliminary contests and tryouts, and each team will contain no more than 10 undergraduates with 1 or 2 instructors. So they are going to design advanced aerobats, which includes the overall planning, needs analysis, parameters, and performance analysis. So these are some of the examples designed by those university students. You can see there is a huge variety, and these students are really imaginative. And for each plan, there will be a lot of VR tools for making the analysis. For example, the design of the structure, the aerodynamic analysis, and performance simulation. Some students might think that this is being too specialized. And actually, we have a group, and this group includes people who are innovative, but not necessarily so specialized. So for this innovative group, there will be 3 to 4 people in one team with 1 or 2 instructors, and they are going to make innovative designs, and they will do 3D conceptual design, and will provide their prospect about future innovative aerobats. So here I want to show you something about this conceptual design. So you can see this aerobat design is just like a bird. So if we want to join, you can be very imaginative. This plan is designed by Airbus. So you can have a look at this video. It's really like a big bird. We really look forward to even more imaginative and innovative designs. As for the innovative groups, they can adopt CAD, 3D Max, Maya, and some other animation software. They can also adopt Unity 3D or some other VR engines. And for system-based projects, why do we talk about system of systems or SOS? Why is it important? Because from engineering design perspective, we need to pay attention to the subsystems, components. We need to unify these systems to provide a systematic platform. But every system must be applied to a certain task scenario and environment, and this environment is a system. So we believe that in our education, we should teach the students not only to see the tree, but also the forest. And on the basis of that, they need to see the whole ecosystem. They need to know how the whole system runs and operates, so that it will provide a better guidance for the design of the system and platform. So system is very complicated. So how can we reflect the mutual influence between different components? So this is a test of the abilities of the contestant teams. So here we are focusing on the air rescue system. Air rescue system played a very important role in every country's disaster relief system. The air rescue team is a very important tool for disaster relief. So we also have a preliminary
contests, tryouts, and final tests. So the scenarios will be the typhoon. For the preliminary test, we have the 2019 Lakima typhoon, and for the tryouts, we have the 2016 Meranti typhoon, and for the final test, we have the super strong typhoon Saomai in 2006. So these are the environments and the background. So there will be all kinds of disasters during the typhoon rescue. For example, people encountering dangers, people trapping. So we need to accomplish all types of rescue tasks. The teams, on the basis of the tasks, they need to design a system in the VR or simulation competition system, and they need to install the equipments, deploy the forces, and make the overall plans. And also, they need to have the assessment and decision of the air emergency rescue system. And this simulation system is going to be launched in December 2020. Now let's watch a video clip. This is a region which is struck by natural disaster, and this is a village trapped in the disaster, and we have helicopters playing different roles, and it can transport people, it can provide medical aid, and these helicopters will have coordination and optimized collaboration. So this is based on a systematic design and optimized design. So this is very important for our contest. And this is for people to have experience of, and this has already been provided on the internet, which is a simplified version of the competition system. And finally, I would like to brief you on the micro videos. Each team will provide a 3 to 4 minutes micro video, which will record the whole process of the design and their experience of participating in the contest. And in this, we will find some excellent stories and experiences, and also to reflect and symbolize the innovation and creativity of the university students. Now let's look at them. We pursue high dreams. We are entitled The Stars. Our title is Huajiao. We are from
North China University of Hydro Resources and Electric Power. We are from Northwestern Polytechnic University. We are here. We are from Beihang University. We wish the competition every success. You can log on to this website for more information about this contest. You will learn more on the website. I look forward to your participation. Thank you.
感谢今天所有的演讲嘉宾为我们带来的异常精彩的报告，感谢到场领导为组织论坛所做的努力，感谢今天到会的所有朋友们的参与和支持。相信本次论坛过后，我们在技术改进教育方面会有更多进步，全球范围内教育和技术会有更多的融合，所有教育和科技工作者会有更多的互通和互联。再次感谢所有组织和参与本次论坛的朋友们。本次分论坛到此圆满结束。Now we come to the end of today's forum. Let's give applause to all of our speakers. What amazing talks they gave. We, everyone who attends today's forum, let's give applause to ourselves also. We are just a part of the wonderful forum. I'm sure after this forum, we will further connect to each other and work together to make the technology and education better than today. Finally, let's give great thanks to the organizers. Their effort makes all this happen. Now, I have to say bye to my friends. See you all in the future.